TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC. When is Skynet?
I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break for your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio. Video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. 1. General announcements. 2. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. 3. National Space Society events. 4. Discussion topic of the evening. 5. What's up? 6. Space exploration and space history. 7. Constellation of the week. 8. Space launches of the week. 9. Recent astronomical discoveries. 10. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. 11. Astronomical Q&A. And 1273 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with round 1, low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you are transmitting from this evening. Well, okay, let's go into general check-ins. Please come now.
Kilo Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Okay.
KI60ZQ here, and I had forgotten tonight's movie night. I didn't watch the movie, so I might want to check out and check my eyelids for leaks, and hopefully talk to y'all tomorrow. But I'm going to inspire people to be grateful for the blessings they have and accept the grace that's already given. KI60ZQ.
I'm sorry, I doubled with somebody who was transmitting. Were you trying to check in? Okay, how about echoing check-in?
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, William Sherman on Echo.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey. Daniel Leonard, and I'm moving away from my radio because of echo. Get your Bobby Zibby.
Okay, we have KF5PDS Philly and KG5BZWJ. How about more general check-ins? Please come now.
Kilo India 5, Oscar Foxtrot Delta, Tony in Winsboro.
Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
KI5 OFD, Tony, and KG5 APL, Patrick. And Dave and Mesquite, I missed your call entirely. Would you please repeat it?
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David Mesquite.
Okay, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, Dave. And we also have KI5 KTZ, Philippe, on Echo Link, but no audio. Okay, we'll get some more check-ins in a bit. So we'll start with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for the evening's net? It can be ham, astronomical space, or general interest to licensed hams. Okay, we have the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, Tuesdays. Tom, N5HYP, is net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. And we have DARC hosted nets, Mondays, first and third Mondays at 7 p.m. is Ham Fixin's net. And then the second Monday is MCOM 101. And fourth Monday is GeekNet, and fifth Monday is SurpriseNet. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East 8 p.m. Fridays, CERT City Simulation 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5JRH, is usually the net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city every Friday. CERT City, all are welcome. And then Saturdays, Night of Nets, TechNet 7 to 8, and of course Skynet at 9. Then the first and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air, MODA. Daily, the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. But wait, there's more. This is not the last net of the evening. Every week, we are assigned a movie to watch on Sunday morning, and then we watch it during the week, and on Saturday night after Skynet, we discuss it. So here is, I didn't write this. Here is tonight's movie. The king of rock and roll looked dejected. After the alien abduction of 1977, it was obvious no one really needed Elvis. There were plenty of Elvis impersonators and admirers. Elvis was in his room on a spaceship. Just across the hall, musical geniuses of all stripes, but none held the title of king. There were flying Elvises, sitting Elvises, wrestling Elvises, and talking Elvises. And I think that's supposed to be Elvi, but I won't quibble. As a saucer landed on Earth somewhere in Vegas, people started assembling. The aliens sensed an opening. Maybe if they created a gambling Elvis. No one had considered that one before. Join us for Who Knows What the Hell This Thing Is, Elvis from Outer Space from 2020 tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all the ARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Our Saturday night movie is generally a science fiction movie, and since this one has spaceships and aliens, that makes it a science fiction movie, I promise. All right, additional check-ins now.
This is November 8 Whiskey Romeo, N8WWR, Romy in Grapevine. Thanks for running the net.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MF, I, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Okay, we have November 8th, WWR, Romy, KG5, WVL, James, and WV4MFI, Ted. All right, next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JH8, to provide this information. Are you there, Chaz?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 28th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. The meeting again will be held on Zoom. Probably will continue to do so with the increase in COVID again. Dr. Noah Pearson from Montana State University will be a featured speaker. Let's see now, oh shoot, I forgot to put that in there this time. His topic is probably, I think, on gravitational waves, if I can remember right. Past club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold because of COVID too, but one of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports coming from the TASS public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights. But again, that's not happening. If you want to get detailed information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, go to their website, texasastro.org, and you can get all sorts of information, even how to buy a telescope. So that would be a good thing to do. This is KF5JJ, back to Brenda, our net control.
Thank you, Chaz. Next, the National Space Society of Events. Bill, N5BB, do you have some news for us?
Yes, hi, Brenda. This is N5BB. I am the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions or interest in either the National Space Society, the national organization, or our local chapter, the North Texas chapter, please send me an email either at space@byrom.net, that's SPACE at BYROM.net, or my ARRL address, which is N5BB at ARRL.net. net. National Space Society meets on the second Sunday afternoon of every month. Our December meeting was this last Sunday, and we had a great meeting. We were at a church in South Lake. The reason we were there is it's the church that Wally Funk goes to. So we were able to be there and get pictures of Wally and see her, talk to her, etc., and talk to other people about space. And then in a meeting room there, we had via WebEx our monthly meeting. Our presenter was Dr. Kelly Fast. The NASA headquarters Near-Earth Object Observations Program Manager. Her presentation was titled, Finding Asteroids Before They Find Us, Planetary Defense at NASA. And that was a very interesting presentation, especially since it came just a few weeks after the DART launch, the Double Asteroid Redirect Test. Our next meeting will be 3 weeks from tomorrow on Sunday, January the 9th, starting at 3:30 in the afternoon. I do not yet know the topic, and I do not know yet if we'll be in person or if we'll be doing it virtually because of the latest uptick in the pandemic. Again, if you have any questions, please send me an email or otherwise contact me about the NSS. Until the pandemic, starts slowing down more, we're not going to have very many in-person events like going to schools and museums like we used to. But as soon as the pandemic, gets down to a dull roar, we'll go back and we'll have a lot of monthly. That's all I've got. And Brenda was at our meeting on Sunday. Good to see you, Brenda. This is N5BB.
Yes, I was. We had a really great time. It was wonderful to see Wally again, too. And made some new friends and met a lot of people. It was really a good time. All right, it is time for the discussion topic of the evening, and I have chosen Apollo 17 because tomorrow is the anniversary of the landing of the Apollo 17 mission, so this is timely. Apollo 17, December 7th through the 19th, 1972, was the final moon landing mission of NASA's Apollo program, the most recent time humans have set foot on the moon or traveled beyond low Earth orbit. Its crew consisted of Commander Eugene Cernan, Lunar Module Pilot Harrison Schmitt, Command Pilot Ronald Evans. Schmitt became the only professional geologist to have landed on the moon, and the mission's heavy emphasis on science meant the inclusion of a number of new experiments, including a biological experiment containing 5 mice and carried in the command module. Launched at 12:33 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on December 7th, 1972, Apollo 7 was a J-type mission that included 3 days on the lunar surface, extended scientific capability, and the use of the third lunar roving vehicle, LRV. Cernan and Schmitt landed in the Taurus-Littrow Valley and completed 3 moonwalks, taking lunar samples and deploying scientific instruments. The landing site had been chosen to further the mission's main goal, to sample lunar highland material older than mare embryon, and to investigate the possibility of relatively recent volcanic activity. Evans remained in lunar orbit in the Command Service Module, the CSM, taking scientific measurements. Cernan, Evans, and Schmitt and the mice returned to Earth on December 19th. Apollo 17 was the first mission to have no one on board who had been a test pilot. X-15 test pilot Joe Engel lost the lunar module pilot assignment to Schmidt, a geologist. The mission included the first night launch of a U.S. crewed spacecraft and the final crewed launch of a Saturn V rocket. It was also the first use of Apollo hardware for its original purpose. Extra Apollo spacecraft were later used in Skylab and Apollo Soyuz programs. The mission broke several crewed spaceflight records, including the longest moon landing, greatest distance from a spacecraft during an EVA of any type, longest total lunar surface extravehicular activities, 22 hours and 4 minutes, largest lunar sample return, 110.52 kilograms, longest time in lunar orbit, 6 days, 4 hours, and most lunar orbits, 75. The Apollo 17 spacecraft consisted of Command Module 114 and Service Module 114, together forming CSM-114 and Lunar Module 12, together with a spacecraft Lunar Module Adapter, SLA, numbered SLA-21, and an Escape Launch System, LES. The LES contained a rocket motor that would propel the CM to safety in the event of an aborted mission in the moments after launch, while the SLA housed the LM during the launch and early part of the flight. The LES was jettisoned after the launch vehicle ascended to the point that it was not needed, while the SLA was left atop the S4B third stage of the rocket after the CSM and LM separated from it. The launch vehicle was the Saturn V SA-512, the 12th Saturn V to fly and a 10th taking astronauts to orbit. It was similar to the earlier ones that had flown on every mission since Apollo 8, with a weight at launch of 6,529,784 pounds, of which was which was attributed to 116,269 was attributed to the spacecraft. Apollo 17's vehicle was slightly larger than Apollo 16, but heavier than every other crewed Apollo mission. Apollo 17 was the third mission, the others being 15 and 16, to make use of a lunar roving vehicle. The LRV, in addition to being used by the astronauts for transport from station to station on the mission's 3 moonwalks, was used to transport the astronauts' tools, communications equipment, and samples. The Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments package was a suite of nuclear-powered instruments flown on each mission after Apollo 11. This equipment was to be emplaced by the astronauts and continue to function after the astronauts returned to Earth. For Apollo 17, the ALSEP experiments were a heat-flown experiment to measure the loss of heat from the interior of the moon, a lunar surface gravimeter, LSG, to measure precisely the lunar gravity field at the site, a lunar atmospheric composition experiment, LASE. The composition experiment a lunar seismic profiling experiment, LSTE, to study the nature and physical properties of the nearby surface and subsurface areas, and a lunar ejecta and meteorites experiment to measure the velocity and energy of dust particles. Throughout the lunar missions, crew members observed light flashes that penetrated closed eyelids. These flashes, described as streaks or specks of light, were usually observed by astronauts while the spacecraft was darkened during the sleep period. Those flashes, while not observed on the lunar surface, would average about 2 per minute and were observed by the crew members during the trip out to the moon, back to Earth, and in lunar orbit. The Apollo 17 crew conducted an experiment also conducted on Apollo 16 with the objective of linking these light flashes with cosmic rays. As part of an experiment conducted by NASA and the University of Houston, One astronaut wore a device that recorded the time, strength, and path of high-energy atomic particles that penetrated the device. Evidence supports the hypothesis that these flashes occur when charged particles travel through the retina in the eye. Cernan was the last man to walk on the moon, and these were his last words from the moon. Quote, I'm on the surface, and as I take man's last step from the surface back home for some time to come, but we believe not too long into the future, I'd just like to say what I believe history will record, that America's challenge of today has forged man's destiny of tomorrow. And as we leave the moon at Taurus Littrow, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return with peace and hope for all mankind. Godspeed the crew of Apollo 17. On December 19th, the crew landed back on Earth from what was, by all accounts, a very successful mission. The Apollo 17 command module now resides at Space Center Houston. It is well worth the trip to see it. Okay, do we have any more check-ins?
This is KI-5 KTZ, Philip, White Rock Creek.
Okay, I think that's KI-5 KBC, Philip. Is that correct?
It is Kilo India 5 Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip at White Rock Creek.
Apologies, I have KI-5 Kilo Tango Zulu. Thanks for joining the net. All right, next we have What's Up, Chaz, KF5 JHA. It's yours.
Thank you, Brenda. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm going to combine Was Up and the constellation of the month, and also Kelly was scheduled, I believe, to do the history segment and has yielded me that time so that I can do something that's becoming an annual tradition. I want to talk about the Star of Bethlehem. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. So tonight I do want to talk about the skies, but not the skies we see tonight, nor over the next week, but rather something that happened over 2,000 years ago, the Star of Bethlehem. Before we delve into the science, we need to know some facts. What is the description of the star, and when did it occur? To get some basic information, we need to go to the Bible. So let's begin with the 2nd chapter of Luke, verses 1 to 7. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that the census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Cyrenia. And everyone went to their own town to register. I'm having a distraction in the background because it's Bob the cat. Verse 4, so Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth into Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and the lineage of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for a baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. Okay, so that's verses in Luke. This will help us to place when the star appeared. We can get more information on the date and the description of the star by looking at the 2nd chapter of Matthew, verses 1 through 16. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where's the one that has been born King of the Jews? We have seen his star, and when it rose, and have come to worship him." Some translations say in the east. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all of Jerusalem with him. When he had called together the people, chief priests, and the teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem, in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written." And this is verse 6. It's a quotation from Old Testament. "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least of the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel." Slide master, slide number 4, please. Verse number 7. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star that they had seen went before them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming into the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. And they opened up their treasures, presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Slide number 5, please. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said, "take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So they got up and the child and took his mother during the night and left for Egypt, where they stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Verse 16. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious and gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 6, please. Now, since historical figures are listed, we can find out when they lived and narrow down the time. Octavius was awarded the title of Augustus in 28 BC. His full title was Caesar Augustus and lived until the year 14. Now let's look at Herod. Herod is a title, and it's generally agreed that the Herod in this part of the Bible refers to Herod the Great. The Jewish historian Flavius Josephus wrote 2 entire scrolls on Herod the Great. Many Josephus manuscripts place the death of Herod the Great around 4 BC. The famous astronomer Kepler, when he had refined the motion of the planets, decided to try to find the Star of Bethlehem and wrote 2 books on the topic. Kepler looked at the years 7 to 4 BC and couldn't find the star. What we now understand is that the earliest manuscripts of Josephus actually date Herod's death around 1 BC, not 4 BC. There may have been a copying error in the later manuscripts. This gives us another 3 years in which to look for the star. Herod the Great, very paranoid about people that would try to kill him and take over his possessions, so killing only a handful of baby boys 2 years and younger around Bethlehem, since the area was sparsely populated, would just be a small thing to him. That would probably make Jesus being born between 3 and 1 BC. Now, we've narrowed down when the star appeared. Let's figure out what it was. 2,000 years ago, the word star meant any light in the sky, so let's explore some possible explanations. Slide master, we're up to slide number 7, please. are streaks of light across the sky that last a fraction of a second or as long as almost a minute. A meteor is just a small piece of debris that runs into the Earth's atmosphere, and the friction is so great that they burn up. A very bright meteor called a bolide can be very impressive, and I've seen a bunch of the different bolides during my observing sessions, but the Star of Bethlehem was a much longer-lasting thing. What about a meteor shower or a meteor storm? Meteor storms were frightening and usually considered an evil rather than good, so we could probably roll a meteor storm or a meteor shower out. Slide number 8, please. How about a comet? Right now in the evening sky we have comet Leonard, and I tried to look for it this evening, but I couldn't find it. Of course, I couldn't find Neo-Wise a year and a half ago inside the city, but out in the country it was easy to see. Anyway, comets are dirty snowballs, and when they get close to the sun, they form a tail of material from their melted ices. Comets could last for days, weeks, or even months in the sky, but they were also considered signs of a bad omen. Also, the Chinese, who were very good sky watchers, did not record a comet during the years of 3 to 1 BC. Slide number 9, please. How about a nova or a supernova in the sky? Nova and supernova are caused by the processes of the end of stellar lifetimes, and we've talked about that before on Skynet. The sudden appearance of a new star in the sky could have been a Star of Bethlehem. But once again, no culture recorded a nova or supernova during this time period. And once again, the Chinese were very good at recording that information. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide number 10, please. If you're on the radio, you're wondering why I'm saying these slide numbers. We actually have a video component, and YouTube usually has that video component. Slide number 10, there are wandering stars in the sky that we call planets. I regularly talk about the dance of the planets across the sky. The planets move in a way that was not understood until the time of Kepler. Most of the time the planets move from west to east against the background of stars, but one or more times a year they go backwards. We call that retrograde motion. This is caused by the faster-moving Earth catching up and passing the slower planets in their orbit. It is like the passing of a slower car on Interstate 635. The slower car appears briefly to be going backwards compared to the background buildings, but you and the slower car are still going the same direction. That's why the planet appears to stop and change directions too. Slide number 11, please. Using computer software called Stellarium, and I've talked about that program in the past, I went back to the year 2 BC on August the 12th. In the software, you have to use a negative in the year to indicate BC years. I set the location to Bethlehem, or you could even set it to Babylon, which was probably where the Magi originated from. More on the Magi later. On August the 12th, 2 BC, the planets Venus and Jupiter were in conjunction. Conjunction is when two objects are close to each other in the sky, and I talk about conjunctions on Skynet all the time. Jupiter is considered the king planet, and Venus is the woman or the mother planet. Actually, this was a really close conjunction, but this kind of thing would happen regularly. But the series of events after that is really fascinating. Slide number 12, please. Just a month later, on September the 14th, 2 BC, the planet Jupiter is in conjunction with the star Regulus. Regulus is considered the king star. The king planet and the king star being in conjunction is significant. But again, this happens about every 12 years. Slide number 13. But remember retrograde motion? On November 27th, 2 BC, Jupiter stops and goes backwards. Slide number 14. Then Jupiter passes Regulus again for a second time on February the 15th, 1 BC. Slide number 15, please. On March 29th, 1 BC, Jupiter stops again and resumes its regular eastward motion. Slide number 16. Jupiter passes by Regulus for a third time on May the 9th, 1 BC. This series of conjunctions are really rare. Also, Jupiter just traced out a halo or a crown around Regulus, the king star. But one more event makes this series of conjunctions even more unique. Slide number 17, please. On June 17th, 1 BC, the planet Venus gets so close to Jupiter that they appear as a single object in the sky. If they had telescopes 2,000 years ago, then the planet Venus would have been closer to Jupiter in the field of view than any of Jupiter's 4 Galilean moons. Wow. It would have appeared to the unaided eye as a single, brightest object in the sky that anyone had ever seen. Slide number 18. Now, what I've told you is a series of conjunctions that took place in Leo, the lion, the symbol of Judah. So for an astronomer, this all sounds like astrology. But let me propose an idea. Astrology says that stars can determine your future. But what if it works the other way around? What if the sky is like a thermometer that just measures what is going on rather than controlling it like a thermostat? This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. Michael Molnar has written a book in which he investigates a coin with a ram and a star. This has led him to look at different astronomical events pointing to April 17th, 6 BC, as when he thinks Jesus was born. We will probably never know for sure when Jesus' birth occurred, nor exactly what the Star of Bethlehem could have been. Slide number 20, please. Planetariums across the world, in fact, I've done this in 4 different planetariums, present programs every year during December about the possible explanations for the Star of Bethlehem. Of course, you can't rule out a miracle, but we don't have any way of measuring a miracle unless you have some built-in time machine that we can go back in time to see a miracle. But of course, there's been lots of afterglow movies on this going back in time with time travel. Yeah. Slide number 21, please. I have a friend from the past, Jay Elkes. He was a member of the Columbus Astronomical Society years ago when I was there in Columbus. He wrote a short science fiction story that explained, well, in the science fiction story anyway, explained the Star of Bethlehem. The story goes something like this. A present-day group of 3 scientists built a time machine powered by an exotic fuel source. The first place they wanted to go back in time was to see the birth of Jesus, so they studied to determine the correct date. They knew what location. They tried to learn the languages for that part of the world during that time. They had clothes designed and fabricated to be the correct time period, and knowing that they may need to stay for weeks or even months while they were there, they took valuable things to trade, like gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They got into the time machine and pressed the button. In a few moments, they were back 2,000 years in the past. As soon as they arrived, they realized their craft was leaking energy, and they would have a couple of hours, not weeks or months, to explore. So they walked to a close-by tiny village and wandered the few streets and found a family with a newborn baby in a small open animal shelter. They realized this family was so very poor that rather than taking their trading materials back with them, they left them with the family. They hurried back to their ship to find the energy leak was so great that the beam of light was being projected into the sky. They barely made it back to their time frame before the energy gave out. It would be a long time before they could try this adventure again. I like that story. Slide number 22, please. By the way, we don't know how many wise men or magi there were. The Bible only lists 3 gifts, so it's been inferred that there were 3 wise men. it is likely an entire caravan of people accompanied these magi. Who were the magi? Well, there are two main lines of thought. The first, that they were descendants of the prophet Daniel. There's no record of Daniel leaving Babylon and returning to Israel. The second idea is that they were Zoroastrian priests that were astrologers living in Babylon. The current Zoroastrian religion makes note of this fact of the priests traveling to honor Jesus' birth as part of their past. And I've even talked with a DFW resident who is a Zoroastrian about the Magi and confirms this fact. Slide master, slide number 23, please. This time of year, there are many celebrations around the winter solstice, which is the shortest day and longest night of the year in the northern hemisphere. Many cultures have celebrations involving lights. My prayer to all of you is that you spend this holiday with family and friends, enjoying the company of each other. My youngest daughter, when she was around 4 years old, said that relationships were the most important thing. Well, we need to learn from that 4-year-old. Slide master, slide number 24. I've used several resources in this presentation, including Stellarium software, and you can get that free at stellarium.org. You can actually find more information out about the Star of Bethlehem visiting the website bethlehemstar.com. And you can check out the Star of Bethlehem by Michael Molmar by just going to Amazon. They have it on sale there. Slide number 25. Until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JJ, wishing all of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I like to do this before Christmas rather than on Christmas, which is what next week is. Oh, you can find it on YouTube for free? Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. They're talking about something else over Arthur C. Clarke's story about the Star of Bethlehem is on free on YouTube. Okay, and let's go back to our net control, Brenda. This is KF5JJ. It's all yours.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WB50ZL. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, we have one from Echolink KG5LM, ZMG, and that's Joe in Arlington. Okay, next, we have a report from Billy, KF5PDS, about NORAD's Santa Tracker. Go ahead, Billy.
KF5PDS, Billy, and good evening, everyone, and thank you, Brenda. So tonight I wanted to give some information, since this is the week before Christmas, about the NORAD Santa Tracker, which will go into effect on Christmas Eve. So first I wanted to give some back on how the NORAD Santa Tracker began. It began with a typo in a good sport. So this article was written in December 19th, 2014. It's on npr.org, and it was heard on Morning Edition. Christmas Eve, people all over the world will log on to the official Santa Tracker to follow his progress through military radar. This all started in 1955 with a misprint in the Colorado Springs newspaper and a call to Colonel Harry Shoup's secret hotline at the Continental Air Defense Command, now known as NORAD. Children, Terry Van Kuren, Rick Shoup, and Pam Farrell visited StoryCorps to talk about how the tradition began. So Terry remembers her dad had 2 phones on his desk, including a red one. Only a 4-star general at the Pentagon and my dad had that number, she said. This was the 50s, this was the Cold War, and he would have been the first one to know if there was an attack on the United States. Rick. That phone day in December 1955, and Shoup answered it, Pam says. And there was a small voice that just asked, "Is this Santa Claus?" His children remembered Shoup as a straight-laced and disciplined, and he was annoyed and upset by the call, and he thought it was a joke. But then, Terry says, the little voice started crying. And Dad realized it wasn't a joke, her sister said. So he talked to him, ho-ho-hoed, and asked if he had been a good boy and may I talk to your mother. And the mother got on the phone and said, you haven't seen the paper yet. There's a phone number to call Santa. It's in the Sears ad. Well, Dad looked it up, and there it was, his red phone number. And they had children calling one after another, so he put a couple of airmen on the phones to act like Santa Claus. It got to be a big joke at the command center. You know, the old man's really flipped his lid this time. We're answering Santa calls, Terry said. Airmen had this big glass board with the United States on it and Canada, and when airplanes would come in, they would track them, Pam said. And Christmas Eve of 1955, when Dad walked in, there was a drawing of a sleigh with 8 reindeer coming over the North Pole, Rick said. Dad said, what is that? And they say, Colonel, we're sorry, we're just making a joke. Do you want us to take it down? And Dad looked at it for a while, and next thing you know, Dad had called the radio station and had, this is the commander at Combat Alert Center, and we have an unidentified flying object. It looks like a sleigh. Well, the radio stations would call in like every hour and say, where's Santa now, Terry says. And later in life, he got letters from all over the world, people saying, thank you, Colonel, for having, you know, this sense of humor. And in his 90s, he would carry around those letters around with him in a briefcase that had a lock on it like it was a top secret information. You know, he was this important guy, but this is the thing he's known for. And Rick adds, yeah, it's probably the thing he is the proudest of, too. This was produced for Morning Edition back in 2014 for NPR.org by Jasmine Belcher Morris. And StoryCorps is a national nonprofit that gives people the chance to interview friends and loved ones about their lives. And these conversations are archived at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress, allowing participants to leave a legacy for future generations. You can learn more about StoryCorps, including you someone in your life at storycorps.org. That gives a little bit of history on the NORAD Santa Tracker. So now, how can we track Santa? Well, the website to track Santa is noradsanta.org. That's noradsanta.org. And if you go to that website today, of course, Santa is not flying around yet, so there is a Santa Tracker countdown. But there are many things that they have added to the website. They've added NORAD HQ is where you can go to learn more about NORAD. There's an arcade where you can play Christmas-related games. There's a theater and library and a music stage where you can watch YouTube videos, read ebooks, and listen to Christmas music. And there's also a gift shop where you can get your official 2021 NORAD Santa Tracker T-shirt. So they have really added to this website. And you can come back on December 24th to track Santa's flight around the world. And you can also track Santa on the fly with the mobile app. So NORADSanta.org now has NORAD Santa Tracker apps that work on iPhone and Android. So, again, have fun with this. I tune in and pick and watch Santa across the globe on Christmas Eve. It's always a treat to watch and make sure you're in bed before he gets overhead. So it's a lot of fun to do that. So just a little thing I like to throw out every Christmas. So again, I'll return it to Net, but I just want to wish everybody a very joyous holiday season and a very happy New Year. Merry Christmas. 5 PDS, back to Net.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Do we have any check-ins? Okay, it's a little different tonight. We're skipping space exploration and space history. And Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week was covered previously by Chaz in his segment. So next, space launches for this week. Tom, KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Thank you, Miss Brenda. And this is KE5ICX. And we have a number of them. December 21st, we have a couple of launches. Falcon 9 SpaceX launch from Launch Complex 39A, the famous moonport at Kennedy Space Center, Florida. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Dragon 2 spacecraft on its fourth cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The flight is the 24th mission by SpaceX conducted by the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. Also on the 21st, there is an H-2A launch. This is from Tagashima Space Center in Japan. An Japanese H-2A rocket will launch the Inmarsat 6 F1 communications satellite for London-based Inmarsat. It was built by Airbus Defense and Space. It has L-band and Ka-band payloads to provide mobile communication services to airplanes and ships. The H-2A will fly in the 204 configuration with 4 strap-on solid rocket boosters. On the 22nd, I cannot talk tonight. On the 22nd, there is a launch from, where is it launching from? It's launching from a Boeing 747. That's why there's no location listed. Cosmic Girl, the Virgin Orbital Launcher and a former 747-400 passenger plane, will launch above the clouds, which will be the fourth flight after dropping from a modified 747. The rocket will be a Virgin operational test carrying small satellites for the U.S. military's space test program, Spire, and the Polish company Sat Revolution. Boy, that was a tough one to read. It was all messed up. December 23rd, we have a Russian Angora A5 rocket, which will launch on its third orbital test flight with a Perseus or Persei upper stage derived from Russia's venerable Block DM upper stage. Russian officials have not identified the payload for the mission, so this is brand new. The Angora A5 flight will launch from Plistik Cosmodrome in Russia. On December 24th, and we're waiting for it, the James Webb Space Telescope will launch, hopefully, from ELA-3 at Kourou, French Guiana. This is designated as VA-256 to launch the James Webb Space Telescope flagship observatory, developed by NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency. JWST is the largest space telescope ever built. Will be deployable mirror measuring 21.3 feet in diameter and 4 scientific instruments to observe the universe in infrared wavelengths. The mission will study the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets. The Ariane 5 ECA rocket will launch JWST on a trajectory toward its operating position at the L2 Lagrange point, nearly 1 billion miles from Earth. And then finally, on December 27th, we have a Soyuz launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. This is OneWeb 12. The rocket will launch 36 satellites into orbit from OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use, everybody say it together, the Fregat upper stage. And that's it from me. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. This is WB50ZL. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, our next segment is recent astronomical discoveries. This article is entitled, "A Spacecraft Has Touched the Sun for the First Time." NASA's Parker Solar Probe reached the Sun's extended solar atmosphere, known as the corona, and spent 5 hours there. The spacecraft is the first to enter the outer boundaries of our Sun. This marks the achievement of the primary objective of the Parker mission in a new era for understanding the physics of the corona, said Justin C. Casper, the first author, Deputy Chief Technology Officer at BWX Technologies and Professor at the University of Michigan. This mission is led by the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory. The probe made its first direct observations of what lies within the sun's atmosphere, measuring phenomena previously only estimated. The sun's outer edge begins at the Alphen critical surface, the point below which the sun and its gravitational and magnetic forces directly control the solar wind. Many scientists think that sudden reverses in the sun's magnetic field, called switchbacks, emerge from this area. The concept of sending spacecraft into the magnetized atmosphere of the sun sufficiently close that the magnetic energy is greater than both ion and electron kinetic and thermal energy predated NASA itself, says Casper. In 2018, NASA launched Parker Solar Probe with the goal of finally reaching the sun's corona and making humanity's first visit to a star. This past April, the probe spent 5 hours below the Alphen critical surface in direct contact with the sun's plasma. Below the surface, the pressure and energy of the sun's magnetic field was stronger than the pressure and energy of the particles. The spacecraft passed above and below the surface 3 separate times during this encounter. This is the first time a spacecraft has entered the solar corona and touched the atmosphere of the sun. Surprisingly, researchers discovered that the Alphen critical surface is wrinkled. The data suggests that the largest and most distant wrinkle of the surface was produced by a pseudostreamer, a large magnetic structure more than 40 degrees across, found back on the innermost visible face of the sun. It is not currently known why a pseudostreamer would push the Alphen critical surface away from the sun. Researchers noticed far fewer switchbacks below the Alphen critical surface than above it. The finding could mean that switchbacks did not form within the corona. Alternatively, low rates of magnetic reconnection on the sun's surface could have pumped less mass into the observed wind stream, resulting in fewer switchbacks. The probe also recorded some evidence of a potential power boost just inside the corona, which may point to unknown physics affecting heating and dissipation. We've been observing the sun and its corona for decades, and we know there's interesting physics going on there to heat and accelerate the solar wind plasma. Still, we cannot tell precisely what that physics is, says Nor E. Ralphie, the Parker Solar Probe project scientist at JSU, APL. With Parker's Solar Probe now flying into the magnetically dominated corona, we will get the long-awaited insights into the inner workings of this mysterious region. The observations took place during Parker's Solar Probe's 8th encounter with the sun. All data is publicly available in the NASA PSP archive. Several previous studies predicted the probe would first pass within the sun's boundaries in 2021. The fastest known object built by humans, Parker Solar Probe, has made many new discoveries since its launch, including on explosions that create space weather and the dangers of super speedy dust. The new findings suggest that direct observations by spacecraft have much to illuminate about the physics of coronal heating and solar wind formation. Having achieved its goal of touching the sun, Parker Solar Probe will now descend even deeper into the sun's atmosphere and linger for longer periods of time. According to Gary Zhang, co-investigator of the probe's solar, wind, electrons, alphas, and protons, that's SWEAP, I guess that's SWEEP, instrument, and a member of the National Academy of Sciences, it's hard to overstate the significance of both the event and the observations made by Parker Solar Probe. For over 50 years, since the dawn of the space age, the heliospheric community has grappled with the unanswered problem of how the solar corona is heated to well over 1 million degrees to drive the solar wind. The first measurements of the sub-alphinic solar wind may represent the most major step forward in understanding the physics behind the acceleration of the solar wind since the formative model by Parker. This event is what many heliophysicists have dreamed about for most of their careers, Zink added. Results published in Physical Review Letters were announced in a press conference at the American Geophysical Union Fall Meeting 2021 on December 14th. And this is WB5OZL. Next up, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tom, KE5ICX, what do you have for us?
Yeah, thank you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Hold on here, let me pull it up. All this information comes from heavens-above.com. Go there and you'll find everything you need to know for any passes, including satellite passes of amateur satellites. Let's see here, I'll even put the Kepler information up. International Space Station has one really good pass. This is on December 20th, minus 3.9 magnitude. It's at 6:06 in the a.m. The west-southwest reached its highest point at 72 degrees in the northwest. At 6:07, it'll fall at 6:11. Next up is Tiangong. This is, I guess they dropped the numbers that just is the Chinese space station. I believe there's 2 tachyonauts up there right now, maybe 3. No, it's 2, I think. They have one pass also, December 20th, 1.5 magnitude at 18:30 or 6:30 in the afternoon out of the west-northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 18:33 at 64 degrees, and it'll fall to the southeast at 18:36. Next up is the X-37B. This is the winged unmanned super secret Space Force rocket plane, I guess you would call it. It's been in orbit now for, I think, 2 years. It has 2 passes that are pretty good. These are a little more challenging. December 19th, 0.5 magnitude at 18:12 in the evening or early afternoon. Well, I should say early evening, I should say. This is out of the northwest. It reaches highest point at 52 degrees at 18:15. It'll fall to the east-southwest east at 18:17. Then on the 20th, 1.6 magnitude, 18:33. Out of the west-northwest, it reaches highest point at 41 degrees at 18:35. Then it'll fall at 18:38. And finally, I've got the Hubble Space Telescope. This one's probably the biggest challenge we got in the area. This one has a couple of, it looks like 2 passes. I guess I got more here than I thought. There's a pass and, let's see which one we have here, 1.7 magnitude. This one's at 17:50 in the evening. It reaches highest point at 17:54 due south at 42 degrees, and it'll fall at 17:58. I'm going to jump over to Envisat. This one's always an interesting satellite because it's so big. It's a former weather environmental satellite, actually, from, I think, the early 1980s. It's very large. Of course, these things have reduced in size, much smaller, but its light footprint is pretty good, so you should be able to see it. Let's see here, December 19th. This one is 3.0 magnitude out of 5:19 in the evening. It reaches highest point almost directly overhead at 5:24. It'll fall to the east and to the south. This is a polar orbit satellite, so virtually all of them are north to south. Pretty much up and down. Then on the 22nd, there is, let's see, 3.4 magnitude out of the north-northeast. Surprise at 5:08. Reaches highest point at 5:13 at 62 degrees. Fall to the south at 5:18. Then on the 24th, we have 2.8 magnitude. This one's 5:33 in the morning, it'll reach its highest point at 71 degrees at 5:38, and it'll fall to the south-southwest at 5:43. All you have to do, that's the ones I got for you today. All you have to do is just put in your Kepler information, which in my case is Louisville, and or your longitude and latitude, I should say, and then the Kepler information is just brought up with the most popular satellites that you've got. Visible satellite passages. Now you can do those that aren't. Simply plug in the information, and you can do amateur radio satellites as well. You'll have to figure out the frequencies and all that, but it will provide the information, and you do not need a special program to run all that. So back to you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Do we have any questions about anything? All right. Well, I would like to address next week, the 25th, is obviously Christmas Day, and that would be the day that we have the net, KE5ICX. Could you fill us in? Are we going to have the net? And tell us something about it, please.
All right. Well, I was querying possible net controls for that. We'll see. I will be net control for the net that evening for TechNet at 7 o'clock. I'll let you know. Depends probably is how many folks will show up. If we do have a net, it will be an informal one. Otherwise, just everyone enjoy your evening and your Christmas. If we do anything, we'll probably just talk about whatever toys we got, astronomical and otherwise, if we do have a net. That's where we're at right now. Back to you, KE5ICX. Oh, and you can go to the website. I'll put something on w5fc.org, just so you know. KE5ICX.
Very good. Well, I will be here on the net, and so I hope I hope we have at least some people show up, but I certainly understand if you have family things going on. All right. Does anybody need any fills? How about final check-ins?
Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo. Your name, please.
Chris in Southeast Dallas.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite. Not sure if you got me earlier.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot. Yeah, you were, you checked in the first round. So, anybody else? Okay, tonight we had 20 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda, and I'll be closing the net at 10:18 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, don't go away. We have Afterglow net starting about 10:30. Tom, do you have anything to say about that? KE5ICX.
Yeah, we'll be back here at 10:30 on the dot. Be talking about Elvis from Outer Space, the 2020 movie that actually was made several years before that, but it came out in 2020. So be ready. This may be a real winner when we have the discussion. You're welcome to discuss it. If you've never seen it, that's okay. We'll talk about Elvis anyway. So back at 10:30. That'll be in about 10 minutes. We'll see you then. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you. Yes, this movie is going to be an all-time classic. I can tell you that. This is WB5OZL.
Normal state.
I am completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Oh, am I painted into a corner? I was hoping I could find a wiki on this. There's no wiki. I'm going to have to find something. Like try and remember this from memory. How could they do this to me? This is KE5ICX. I guess I'll be net control because I can't imagine anybody rushing out at being net control for this one. Elvis from Outer Space is a movie that's 90 minutes long. It was released on July 10th, 2020. I don't know where or how, but it was. It has a rating of, well, on Rotten Tomatoes it's got a rating of 0%, but only 6 votes. So you can imagine. And it has 1 star because I think that's the minimum you can give it. So, what's the premise of the story? Well, what happens is Elvis is taken away by Alpha Centaurians to Alpha Centauri, or at least on a spaceship that's kind of done on an Atari computer, I think, from about 1980. And they just love him. They think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he decides he wants to go back and find out about his daughter. He has a daughter out of wedlock, I guess. Then he decides he wants to check on his legacy. The thing that he does is he ends up coming back, and the CIA is not happy about it, and I guess the Secret Service isn't happy about it because they knew all about it with Nixon and the whole thing with his buddy, and he knew they were in on it. So they had this whole secret thing about Elvis and his return. He ends up doing an Elvis impersonation, 1970s Elvis, to an admiring massive number of like 6 people in the audience each day. That they had this 4-day competition for the Elvis impersonators. The same 8 people show up over and over again. The part of Elvis is played by somebody, I don't know who, but let me see. Maybe I can find a review so I can at least give you a little more in the way of details. Let's see here. Here's a full review. And it says, Elvis from Outer Space is one tiny and long played out joke stretched to fill a slow and suffering 90 minutes of so-called cinema. The title pretty much sums up what this low-budget sci-fi comedy is about, and your tolerance for it would depend on your demeanor, your humor, and your patience. Elvis, played by George Thomas, faked his death in 1977 and took off into space with aliens to spend the next 40 years in the Alpha Centauri system. See, I remember this part. He decides to return to Earth using the alias John Burroughs in an attempt to meet his secret love child, played by Deanna Renee. With the CIA on his tail, Elvis hits Las Vegas and enters an Elvis impersonator contest, and his newly constructed body begins to disintegrate due to the Earth's atmosphere. If that brief plot rundown makes it sound good, then I apologize in advance. When watching Elvis from Outer Space, you'll be left to ponder who writing, directing duo Marv Z. Silverman and Tracy Winchpart have in mind as its audience. This bargain basement comedy feels like a 15-minute short film stretched into the breaking point and apart from the occasional gag and cameo from some of the King's old crew, like Sonny West. Oh, he's about the only one. There's very little for fans to enjoy. The film's budget is so tight that it doesn't have any Elvis tunes. Instead, it is loaded with ridiculous sound-alike songs, which are as forgetful as they are bad. Ridiculously cheap special effects and an over-reliance in voiceover and fake television clips. Elvis from Outer Space is a hodgepodge of ideas thrown together without any apparent thought. The digital revolution gave us a lot of talented filmmakers, but it also trusts us on this many movies which should never have been made. This is one such film. Throughout his career as an actor, Elvis Presley was involved in quite a few cinematic atrocities. None of them come anywhere near the debacle which is Elvis from Outer Space. It's a hunka burning junka. Elvis from Outer Space from 2020, and now you've heard it from who knows who. I will now take check-ins. People would like to join us this evening to talk about Elvis from Outer Space, or even Elvis, your best and worst feelings about Elvis if you didn't see the movie. And of course we want to hear your comments about the film if you did see the movie. So I will now take check-ins. If you would like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Elvis from Outer Space? Here we go.
Oh, I'm waving my hand in the air so I get called on. This is N5BB. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
K0FER. This is Chris in Southeast Dallas, and no, I did not see the movie.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. Jane Weber, I did not see the film, and also for time.
Oh, the check-ins are almost as good as the movie. It's kind of weak this evening, but that's okay. I'll take the ones I got. I got N5BB, Bill in Irving. He admits to seeing the movie. K0SER, that's Chris. He did not see the movie, but Chris, we're going to ask you about your very fondest memories of the King. I got KG5B said WJ. He did not see the movie, and I think he said he was short time. I'll come back to you later just to see if you're out there. Any additional check-ins for those who would like to admit that they saw Elvis from Outer Space, the 2020 movie, available on, I don't know, Tubi, on Tubi for free. Even if you didn't see it, check in anyway. Please come out.
This is November 8, Whiskey Romeo. N8WWR, I'm mobile in Grapevine, and name's Romy. I didn't see the movie, but I'll be soon back at the base there, and I got some thoughts on Elvis. N8WWR mobile.
This is KI5QLE, Kilo India 5, Quebec Lima Echo. This is Kyle in Taxi, and I have not seen the movie.
Okie dokie, I picked up two. I got N8WWR, Romy, he's mobile. Romy, did you say you did see it or didn't? I couldn't tell, because I think you were gagging on the check-in.
That's a negative, Tom. I did not see the movie, but I will be back at the house there, so I got some thoughts on Elvis Presley in general there. N8WWR mobile.
All right, excellent. I got you down as not seeing the movie, but you're an Elvis fan. Next, KI5QLE, that's Kyle Saxey. He did not see the movie, but that's okay. I've got you checked in. Any additional check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name. Did you see Elvis from Outer Space? Okay, that may be all we got. Usually Brenda comes in. She was really excited about this movie, and I thought she wanted to check in, but she'll probably check in a little bit. We'll catch her on the next round. So let's go ahead and get started. Bill, N5BB, Bill, your comments on Elvis from outer space. In this case, the plot, we may poop out early because I don't think there's a lot of anything in this film, but we'll start with the plot. So, Bill, what do you think from KE5ICX?
Ooh, I got some comments. This is In5BB about the plot and the general making of the movie, which I think I need to introduce first. This movie was first made in 2011 by Marv V. Silverman and some other people, and the name of it was Memphis Rising, Elvis Returns. That's Memphis Rising, Elvis Returns, 2011 movie. I can find excerpts from it, but I can't find the whole movie to view. That was an R-rated movie, I believe, and 9 years later, the rights to the movie were sold, probably because it lost a lot of money initially, or didn't make any money, and somebody probably bought it for practically nothing. Anyway, Tracy Wooshpard, however you pronounce her name, she's done a few acting and video editing things, but she's kind of like a fine arts major that's kind of dabbled at the edge of the movie business. Somebody approached her about trying to redo this movie, and the Memphis Rising, Elvis Returns movie, and they wanted to make it more family-friendly, so it wasn't R-rated, and evidently fix some other things in the movie. Believe it or not, this is what's really hard to believe. What we saw was the fixed movie, the new and improved version. I haven't seen the original. It seems to be unavailable. So I listened to an interview of hers, a voice interview. I was listening to her talk about it, and also some written comments. And she finally went in and cut out about half of the original content, but they figured, evidently in the original one, they didn't really have any images of the aliens. So from her point of view, she put in a lot of money and effort making these 3D aliens, which to me looked like really crummy special effects, but she was evidently proud of that. So they added that, but they had some difficulties because, you know, the main actor, they wanted to add redo some scenes with the Elvis character. Add some more things for him to do. The problem was he was 9 years older, and he looked older from 2011 to 2020 in 5BB. So evidently they used some commercially off-the-shelf video editing software to make him look younger. So that when they went from scene to scene, it wasn't as glaring a problem. Okay? But most of this stuff, I mean, the Elvis's sidekicks that were put in here, I think one or both of them are now dead by the time the movie was released. So most of the content that you see in there, as far as the people and the acting, the majority of it was already in the can from 2011. But they threw in some more things with the aliens, and they reshot put some new scenes in, or reshot some old ones with the Elvis character and some other people, and made it into a new, amazing movie. Oh my golly. It supposedly spent, what was it, $1.5 million doing it or something? I don't know. That may have included getting the rights from the original one too. Who knows? I can't believe they made a profit on this. Anyway, as far as the plot goes, zero. That's right, zero. Didn't really describe why Elvis went to this other alien place. He died. How did they get him? They somehow built a new body for him or something? Come on. He didn't even really look like Elvis, and he definitely didn't lose the weight or anything. I mean, he didn't have the same weight or anything else. He noticed that in the movie, no Elvis music was in it. They wrote some new songs and stuck him in there. And about the only music I heard in there that was that I recognized in 5BB was the sunrise fanfare at the start of Also Sprach Zarathustra, which is the music that was in 2001: A Space Odyssey. So they threw some of that in there at one point because probably it was free, public domain, but that was about it. They threw in references to Roswell Project, but things are going on in Las Vegas, which is nowhere near Roswell, New Mexico. This daughter, Linda, she didn't even care about this guy that said he was her father. Dialogue, bad. Acting, bad. Why was the CIA trying to return Elvis to the aliens? I didn't really understand. Why was he a security thing? I didn't understand that. How did he get there originally? Why did they want to return him? Elvis was somehow supposed to be weak unless he periodically got back to the spacecraft. You saw him getting weak, but you didn't see any spacecraft or him getting back to it. I don't know. Area 52, which wasn't more than Area 51. Every time they had some kind of video communication, it was breaking up. You would think the aliens, or even the humans on the Earth, would have better video phones without the images breaking up in ways that don't really occur in real life. They occurred back in 1950s and 60s sci-fi movies because they threw some noise on analog TV. But even in 2011, we had digital TV, so that made no sense. And, I don't know. Bad movie. Oh, by the way, when various of those characters were singing, in particular Elvis, they were lip-syncing. Definitely lip-syncing. So they didn't even sing that bad music they had. Bad movie. In 5BB. That's all I got.
Well, thank you, Bill. I'm glad that you enjoyed the film. I can tell from your comments that you were totally engrossed in the film and that you would watch it again, maybe 2 or 3 more times, just tonight alone. Next up, we have Chris, K0SER. Chris did not see the movie, but that's okay, Chris. Tell us about your favorite Elvis experience, or alien experience, or Elvis and alien experience from KE5ICX.
Thank you. Well, yeah, like you said, I have not seen the movie, and Elvis is a little bit before my time, but one of the things that intrigued me about when I heard the description of this film is it just made me yearn for the weekly world newses that I saw in the supermarkets when I was a kid in the early 90s. Yeah, I never quite understood the whole Elvis isn't really dead conspiracy theory. But I do appreciate his music. Favorite song is probably Can't Help Falling in Love with You. Either that or Jailhouse Rock. I also appreciate what he did for the art, bringing R&B and rockabilly more mainstream. Yeah, there was like Fats Domino and Bill Haley in the Comets before him, but Elvis is a cultural icon and brought all that stuff mainstream, like really mainstream. But yeah, that's kind of all I have as far as Elvis experience. But I am definitely enjoying the listening to this conversation, and that's a very glowing review, Bill. I'll be sure to check out this film. K0FER.
Well, very good. Thank you, Chris. And to answer your question, I'm old, so I was, very much aware when Elvis. I think it was just like a year earlier he had done, or maybe 2 years earlier, he had done a return. He had done his Hawaii big return thing on prime time. I think it was ABC network. It was taped, but he flew him in on a helicopter into Honolulu, and he gets off and he starts singing his songs, and he went for about 90 minutes, and it just relaunched his career. People loved him. And then the whole thing, his death, I think, came a year or maybe 2 years after that, and people were shocked because he was on this return and doing shows and everything else. But of course, he had, I think it was a drug overdose that killed him, and people just didn't want to believe it. This guy was the king of rock and roll, and they loved him. So about a year, maybe 2 years after his death, these Elvis impersonators were cleaning up, at least for them, the kind of salaries that, they could make money if they impersonated him, whereas they couldn't do anything as themselves. So they started showing up, and then when people found that they could make a few dollars off of it, it became a thing, and then Las Vegas, of course, capitalized on it. And movies started capitalizing on it, and they found out that even with him dead, he was making them money. So it was kind of a weird thing, and it's been that way ever since. And I'm not sure why it's Elvis, but I think it was happenstance, and because he was so well-liked, they decided that this would be preserving him and as a cultural icon, and performing would be the thing that would work. I don't know, but that's how it was. Okay, next up is Jay. I believe he may have said he was short time, but we'll see. KG5BZW. Jay, if you're out there, if you want to talk about Elvis in any capacity, it's fine. I know you didn't see the movie. Go right ahead from KE5ICX if you're out there.
This is KG5BGW. Okay, I can hear myself here. Yeah, I did attempt to see the film, but yeah, I got no, it was real quick, so it sounds like I made the right judgment. Actually, I guess the only real reason I'm here is because I don't know what's going to happen next week, and I kind of hate I missed the last week, but I watched 2/3 of that film. But anyway, I don't know. There's one guy mentioned. I was hoping it'd be at least as funny as those not the Star, but was a journal that they actually closed down. It seems like it wasn't that long ago, but I'm sure it wouldn't be surprised if it's been 10 years or so. I was hoping it'd be at least as funny as some of those headlines, but yeah, no, it just it was really flat. I'm trying to remember. I did couple of years with some relatives. I think it was a decent film. And there's been a few that have been bad. I don't know. I can think of anything really unique or useful to say here. I just don't really have anything. So, hand it to the next person. KG5, BCW, back to net.
Okie dokie, thank you, Jay. So I guess you did see it. So next up is N8WWR. Romy, I know you're transitioning to your home base location, but if you are there, tell us. I know you didn't see the movie, but you had comments about Elvis. This may have to do with Nixon. It may have to do with his Secret Service work and CIA work. It could be his alien abduction. Whatever you'd like to talk about, Romy, please tell us more. NAWWR from KE5ICX.
Oh, good evening, Tom, and the rest of the net. NAWWR Mobile here in Grapevine. Yeah, we kind of had a change of plans there, so we're going to do the Dairy Queen, and I got to head somewhere else. But anyway, my Elvis thoughts. It's funny, we had an interesting conversation earlier this morning over here in Tarrant County about Elvis on the simplex frequency. You know, he really didn't die of a drug overdose. He died of constipation from the drugs that he ingested. So it was kind of an interesting thing that was brought up. I didn't fact check that, but that's what was claimed. And my thoughts on Elvis was I spent a lot of time on my mom's car as a child, headed to visit my dad in various federal correctional institutions, and she had an Elvis Presley tape set, you know, two cassette tape set there from your reset, and I used to listen to every one of his hits, or you know, B-side songs, or even some deep tracks were on those cassette tapes there. So I mean, he has a really good body of work. I mean, general consensus was Suspicious Minds and, like, you know, In the Ghetto were his biggest hits there. But you know, as a person, terrible actor. Yeah, and his Nixon stuff, man, with the you know, he's a well, it wasn't the DEA at that time, you know, for the agency that became known as the DEA in the future. He was a special agent with those guys, or a reserve, or whatever it was. What a joke that is. The guy was like, what was he? Because he was testing everything that they confiscated? But I only say that in jest there. But Tom, thank you for the net, sir, and we appreciate everything you do. Back to the net, NAWWR Mobile.
Oh, very good. You all the details. I wasn't entirely sure, and but okay, it's been so many years ago, I didn't remember all the details. But now I know. The DEA guy, and he died of constipation. So I guess maybe, you know, he was full of it. Okay, next is Kyle, KI5QLE. Kyle, no, I know you didn't see the movie, but do you have an Elvis story? Did you encounter him? And if you did, what was it like? And if you didn't encounter him, what did you imagine it might be like? From KE5ICX. Turned his radio off. He may have turned his radio off, unplugged it, and thrown it into the bathtub. This isn't what amateur radio is supposed to be about, and you're right. That's why, and this isn't what Elvis is supposed to be about, but it is. You never know what's going to happen. Okay, let me see here. Let me go ahead and ask for additional check-ins at this point. The movie we're discussing tonight is Elvis from Outer Space, the 2020 film that was actually filmed in 2011 or 2012, and most of the people in it are dead or in jail today. But but it has a 2020 release date. So you're welcome to check in. All I need is your call sign, your name, did you see the film? And even if you didn't see the film, you have an Elvis memory you want to share with us. So please check in now.
This is WB5OZL. My name is Brenda. I did see the movie.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas. I did not see the movie, but I did see the 6 episodes of Elvin, the illegitimate son of Elvis, in Shreveport cable television, W5GUS.
Oh, okie dokie. So I got 2 more. I coaxed them out. Let's see, WB5OZL. That's Miss Brenda. She did see the film. And I got W5GUS Gus, who has not seen the film, but he did see Elvin, about the illegitimate, the 6-part American Heritage series about Elvis's illegitimate son. So we'll come back to him in just a little bit and ask more. So Brenda, WB5OZL, tell us about your thoughts on this movie. I know you have many. You were very excited about the film when we announced it as our movie of the week. So please go ahead. Without further ado, this is KE5ICX.
Okay, this is WB5OZL. I think I'd really rather talk about Bubba Hotep, a wonderful movie where Bruce Campbell plays Elvis Presley. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Bruce Campbell's one of my favorite actors, and he really does justice to Elvis in that movie, so check it out. Now, this movie, plot, Cloak and Dagger, CIA, Elvis, instead of dying, he was whisked away by aliens for who knows why. I will have to say, those are some of the most realistic aliens I've ever seen in a movie. I don't know, it really should get an Oscar for special effects. They were just very believable. I don't have any real Elvis stories. I honestly never was a big fan, and I'm old enough to remember when there wasn't an Elvis, and it just kind of wasn't my thing, and I thought people's hysteria over him was a little bit silly, but I know one of my best memories is somebody lamenting that when her trailer house burned down, she lost all of her Elvis collection, including some stunning velvet Elvis paintings. To me, it was just, I don't know. His personal life was so sleazy that I just didn't have a thing for him at all. And I quickly looked up how did he die. The autopsy revealed it was a heart attack, but he was on the toilet and slumped over on the floor, and so he had a heart attack on the toilet. That shouldn't happen to any of us. That's even him. That's just very sad. He was so young. They were saying his health. He really didn't take care of his health. He ate horrible food and was overweight and took drugs, and that takes its toll, killing people at 42. So, wish I had a personal story or something wonderful anecdote, but I just don't. The plot of this movie was a train wreck. I wouldn't even begin to to justify it with a discussion of it. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And I wish I could say what I was thinking right now, but I can't. It's over the air. It would have been a really funny, but never mind. It was also obscene. Okay, W5QS, Gus, you did not see the film. You did see Elvin. So tell us about Elvin, and then tell us about your admiration for Elvis from KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Tom. W5GUS here. Hey, everybody. A rare late night for me, so, and a nice, excellent topic, too. Campy topic. Well, you know, Elvis actually was a good singer. He had some really good music, and he did blend a lot of old blues rhythms and types of music together. He was an excellent musician, good voice, and I admire his musicianship. But as far as his lifestyle, not so much. Remember when he got the picture of himself with Nixon? He was like Romeo was saying, he was kind of somehow thought he was a secret agent for the predecessor to the DEA. Anyway, over in Shreveport, after Elvis had died, they had a cable TV station there, and as y'all might remember, that TV stations, when the cable came in, they had usually every city they came into, they had to provide access by the public access to their cable channel, and provide cameras and things like that for just regular citizens in the area to they can produce their own shows and that kind of thing. Usually it wasn't much, or some talk show, something like that. But there was a guy, I don't know him, I never met the guy, but he was Elvis impersonator, I guess you'd call it. But he did it. He was a comedian. He did it in camp. He over in Shreveport at the Shreveport local cable. They produced, I think, like 6 or 8 episodes of him, of Elvin. He was the break. He was the illegitimate son of Elvis and Elvin. Elvin was very overweight. But he did have the haircut, and he did sound just like Elvis. He could talk just, thank you very much, that kind of thing. And he had, in these 6 episodes, they were really, really funny. One of them, I'll tell a couple here. He had a big convertible Cadillac, and let me break. In one episode, he started the cameras in the back of a Burger King, the drive-through lane. This big Cadillac wheels in, convertible, and it's Elvin, and he kind of runs over the curb and all that, and pulls up to the speaker box, the order box there, and he says, "I'll have a bologna sandwich." Well, sir, this is Burger King. Well, I'm here. I'm the king, and I want a bologna sandwich. Well, sir, we don't have bologna sandwiches. All right, then give me a can of Crowder peas. I want some Crowder peas. Sir, we don't have Crowder peas. Well, how about a can of peaches? Give me a can of peaches. Anyway, hilarity ensued. It ended up he stepped on the gas and burned out. Left Burger King. And one other one I'll mention briefly. Same kind of funny thing. Break. The scene starts. He's in the front door of a blue collar, residential house. Nothing special, just kind of a house in Mesquite, basically looking, just a regular house. And the camera zooms back from the front door. Door opens. It's Elvin, and he's in his workout suit, sweatsuit, got a towel around his neck, and he comes out stretching. Oh man, what a great day and all that. And I'm going to go work out. So he starts walking towards the camera, which is at the street. He walks up the walkway toward the camera. There's his mailbox is right there. So he walks up. He's walking slow and starting to sweat, He's real overweight. He gets to the mailbox, boy, and he leans down on it. Oh, man, that was a workout. He gets a mail, and then he sits down on the curb there, wiping sweat, and just reading his mail. He says, oh, man, that's a workout. I got to go back in the house. Anyway, so that's the kind of funny thing it was. One last one, and I mean it this time, break. He was interviewed in like a Johnny Carson type show, guest show. He was a guest host there, and he's talking, sitting on the couch there, and on his hands he had those, I don't know if y'all remember, it's kind of like hair balls, rubber bands that have these big, like eyeball size balls on the end, and women would wrap it around their ponytails. And anyway, he had 3 or 4 of those on his hand, like rings, and the suit. And oh man, it was so funny. Elvin, the illegitimate son of Elvis Presley, there. And I've tried to find copies of that or any information on at the cable channel over there in Shreveport, and never found anything. So boy, but it was funny. All right, well that's my memories of Elvis. Other than of Elvin, I should say. But Elvis did have really some good music, especially his early stuff. Okay, back to net, W5GUS.
Well, thank you, Gus. And you had more to say about Elvis and Elvin than everybody else had combined. You had quite a number of stories. And yeah, looking for, just as an aside, trying to find your passionate program that nobody else is even aware of is very, very difficult. I had that happen. I watched a series. It was on, actually, I had seen it in here, or was I in Detroit at the time? I might have been here. But it was called Blot on the Landscape, BBC short limited series comedy, and I thought it was the most hilarious thing I'd ever seen, but I couldn't find it anywhere, and it wasn't available. And finally, thanks to the internet, I was able to order it through the BBC, the UK version, and get it here. I even had to figure out how I could play it because it had region 2 or whatever it is, Europe only. And I found a way, and then I transferred it over to digital. But I was thrilled. If you want to see a funny series, that's it. It's just so irreverent, the whole thing. I just love it. Very much my humor. So let's see here. Let me go ahead before I make additional comments. I'll see if there's anybody else out there who'd like to join us. We are talking about the movie Elvis from Outer Space, but really we're also talking about Elvis and that time period and all of that, since most people hadn't seen the film, and those who did don't remember much from it because they were taking a hammer and banging it into their heads because it was such a good movie. So anybody like to join us, please come with your call sign name. And did you see Elvis from Outer Space? We would pick up a couple of people. All right, let me see here. My comments on the movie. Look, I love comedy. You know that. Everybody who knows me knows that I poke funnies at everything, and I frequently write funny things that I think are funny, and I try and make them funny for other people. This one was not funny. It wasn't even self-aware. It was kind of a conglomeration of stuff, and I'm not quite sure why on earth they made this film. It reminds me of Ed Wood's work, but Ed Wood at least had a passion about it. When he did his stories, he tried to do it the best way he could with what he had. In this case, I'm not sure they were sure what they wanted to do. And since this is a second edit, I guess, or maybe a third, who knows, of the original film, and then they filled in the blanks, I guess you're stuck in a structure. When somebody makes a movie and then you can't get it through, they can't complete it, which I think might be what happened here, or if they did complete it and it went nowhere, what do you do with the existing material? I don't know. It seems to me, well, what they did, what it appears to me is that they added all this voiceover stuff to fill in blanks, and also and they also had the television stuff that I think they added too to add filler to the film. 90 minutes? I don't think they had 90 seconds for a plot on this baby. There just wasn't enough there. If you're going to make it funny, you got to make it funny. If you're going to use aliens, the aliens have to be entranced by Elvis, and for reasons that we would be. There's also the consideration that you're making a movie and you're trying to use materials that are copyrighted, and you can't use any of the songs, so that definitely takes something out of it. It's just, why make this film? Why not make it somebody other than Elvis? I don't know. Some great star. Make it a parody of Elvis, but make it Elvin. There's a name, Elvin. And then you don't have to pay copyright or royalties or anything like that. So, it wasn't funny. I'm not sure they wanted it to be funny. It says it's a comedy, but it really wasn't. The acting was, yeah, well, Bill mentioned this. We're getting to acting maybe on this next round, but it takes you out of the moment. The audio was terrible as well. They filmed at sites. I don't know where that multi-story building was. It was supposed to be Area 52 or the new CIA headquarters. It looked like an abandoned building somewhere. And there was something on the wall as you went up. There was the landing, and as you made the turn on the stairway, there was something there, and it just came into picture. It was some sort of collage or something. So it looked like maybe it was an old abandoned school. Couldn't tell for sure. But it just was kind of very, very slowly playing out. And to me, you know, I know enough about audio to know I don't know anything about audio, but the thing is that the audio was pretty terrible through the whole film. The acting, it came in kind of dead last in this as well, and we got the mob and that. And some of these people have worked professionally before in other shows playing those type of characters, but it just came off hollow and stilted. Now, with that said, of all the movies we've watched, The Creeping Terror has been listed as dead last, as the worst movie we've ever seen. I now say that Elvis from Outer Space has now placed at the very bottom rung, because even The Creeping Terror tried to do something to make the thing work. I don't think they even really tried on this film. So I'm now saying Elvis from Outer Space is the worst film ever made that I've seen. And there may be others, but this is now the new king of crap. Let's face it, it wasn't very good. Now, with that being said, the movie did get the Silver Lay Award in Honolulu. I don't know why. I don't even know what the Silver Lay Award is. It's not a Razzie. It's a nice award. It's like this crystal thing you get. Maybe somebody threw it at them, and when they came up on stage, it was a way of killing the director. I don't know, but it did win the Silver Lay Award. And if anybody can Google and figure out why, that would be wonderful. So there you have it. All right. Let me see. I think I'm going to do another round, but I think this will probably be the final round because I can't imagine us going on forever unless somebody picks up a really good topic, and they might, something that everybody's passionate about, probably anything but this movie. Then we'll continue. But I'm going to go ahead and go down the list, whoever's still here, and see what they think. So on this round, we'll talk about characterization, special effects, music, lack of the above, whatever you want. So we'll start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, tell us more about this movie from KE5ICX.
Oh boy, this is N5BB. Well, what about that master of ceremony guy? I don't know where they found him, but that was just filler in there. Had nothing, that guy doing all his talking and all that stuff, had nothing to do with Elvis and the aliens or anything. And it was like green screen in front of some kind of location, or blue screen, I mean. There's a number of that in there where they just threw some stuff in there like that blue screen did. Did you notice Alexander Butterfield was in the movie? He was a CIA director. Now, you young ones, you youngies here, don't know who Alexander Butterfield was. He was very involved with Richard Nixon back in the Watergate era. Okay? And he was like 85 years old, evidently, when he filmed his parts in this. And he was the CIA director. And the other thing is, did you realize that 3 years ago in 2018, our dear President Donald Trump gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Elvis Presley posthumously? I don't know why. I don't know what this has to do with it, but it just kind of adds to this weird Elvis mystique. Again, Tom, my comment is bad movie. In 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And yeah, I looked him up, and he looked kind of familiar. I remember a little bit of the Nixon era Watergate thing, and I just looked him up online. He's still alive. He was born April 6, 1926, so he's still around. And he was deputy assistant to President Richard Nixon from 1969 to 73. He revealed the White House taping system on July 13, 1973 during the Watergate investigation. But he had no other involvement in the scandal, according to this. He was Minister of Yes, Federal FAA from 73 to 75. How about that? Air Force military career, all of that. Interesting. He looked vaguely familiar, but there's no way I would have connected him to Nixon on this one. I just wouldn't. I just thought he was kind of a bad actor. Which, if you're working for Richard Nixon, you might have been. Never mind. Let's see. So, all right. Very good, Bill. K0SER. I think that's Chris. Chris, if you're still there. Any comments on anything? Well, you didn't see the movie. Do you have any parting shots on Elvis or Elvin from KE5I6?
No real parting shots, but it does seem very short-sighted of the producers to greenlight a movie about Elvis and not include any money for royalties to use Elvis music. K0FER, back to net.
Chris, I think that's the most profound statement this evening. Why do it if you can't even do a song? He's a singer and kind of an actor, and we got neither in this film. So why make the film. I agree with you. KG5BZWJ, your comments, anything you want, go right ahead.
BCW here. I got nothing. I'm gonna check out. Go to bed. KG5 BCW.
Okay, that's all right. I understand the feeling very, very well. And AWWR, that'd be Romy. Romy, additional comments, any dirt you want to give us on Elvis that you haven't so far? You seem to have an in-depth knowledge about the man. Maybe something we don't know that you do that you would like to share from KE5ICX.
No in-depth knowledge, just some, just reporting a comment that he supposedly died of constipation, instead of the drug OD. But yeah, I got nothing else to add there. I would like to see this Elvin series, though. That sounds really interesting here. And I actually kind of want to see the movie now. It sounds so terrible, I kind of want to watch it. So maybe when I get back to the house here in a little bit, I may pop it on. So I appreciate you. Back to you, NAWWR Mobile, Bedford.
All right, Romy, I think the only way that you could watch this film and see it all the way through would be if they tied you down into a chair, put those anti-blinking closing eye things on, and somebody sat there and put eye drops in your eyes while you're listening to, I don't know, Beethoven's Ninth or something. So you can do with that as you please, but it's a very difficult movie to watch. Okay, let's see. KI5QLE, that's Kyle. I don't know if he's still there. I think he was the one that ran off. But Kyle, did you come back? Do you have anything to say about Elvis? See, I put him out of my mind. I can't even remember who we're talking about. That's how bad it was. Or Elvin, for that matter. If you're still there, or maybe you drifted off, or now you're back. Anything you want to say, please go ahead from KE5ICX. Okay, next up is WB5OZL. Miss Brenda, give us your final comments on this fine film.
This is WB5OZL. I don't know if I'll ever quit talking about this. I'm just too damaged. Elvis's personal doctors prescribed to him a lot of drugs. Lots and lots and lots of drugs. And, what he later said was Elvis didn't seem to have a problem with it since the doctor gave them to him, and it was okay. The doctor later lost his license for overprescribing drugs. He first met this doctor when the doctor treated him for saddle sores. That's just TMI, way TMI. But he was addicted to amphetamines, but the autopsy didn't reveal that drugs were a cause of his death. I think he had a fried peanut butter and banana sandwich clogged in his heart. What else do I want to say about this movie? There are some really, really good Elvis impersonators out there. They make a good living. And not one of them was in this movie. None of the Elvis impersonators in this movie were even remotely credible. I used to work for the Frontiers of Flight Museum, and for years we put on air shows there at Love Field, and one year somebody suggested that we bring in the Flying Elvi. This is a group of 10 people who dress as Elvis and parachute out of an airplane and do some aerial stuff. stunts. I was glad that didn't come to fruition. That's a new low in taste, I think. But they're still around. They make a living at it. Oh, let's see. What else? Worst movie ever made? Could be. It just, nothing ever gelled together. And you kept staring at it like, what am I watching? And why are they making this movie? I don't know. And they didn't even have any actual Elvis music in it. I guess that's a copyright thing. Okay, I'm going to quit there. WB50ZL.
Okie doke. Thanks, Brenda. And thanks for your enthusiastic support for tonight's net. Next up is Gus, W5GUS. Gus, any final comments about Elvis or your need to see this film or maybe another film? And I'll go looking for Elvin for you because that's how I found Blot on the Landscape. So maybe it's on the BBC site for like $1 million. But go ahead, Gus. Whatever you got, enlighten us from KT5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, please see if you can find it. That would maybe for $500,000. I might pay that much, but if it's available, please let me know if you can find it. It would be worth it. It's really funny. And Brenda, I have seen Bubba Ho-Tech, and I know what you mean. That's a weird but really good movie. And a good Elvis impersonator there is at the old folks home, I think it was. Nothing much more about Elvin, but I do have a juicy tidbit of information that most people don't know about. While I was there in Shreveport working at the newspaper, photography there, my boss, the chief photographer, a real good guy, he'd been Marine combat photographer in World War II. He's gone now, but he was at Shreveport there at the paper for probably since when he got back from World War II, or maybe from the 50s. He photographed a lot of things while there in Shreveport, and one of them was Elvis. Elvis was pretty much discovered or made really popular in the Louisiana Hayride, which was in Bossier City, right across the Red River from Shreveport. Break. And so every Friday night, Jack, my boss, Jack Barham, would go over there on Friday night and take pictures of Louisiana Hayride acts, and they would have a lot of country western people, a lot of big names over there. And one night he went over there, the new singer, and it was Elvis Presley. Before he made it really big, he was, kind of getting known, but wasn't a big star. Jack went backstage. He was there every Friday, so he could walk around backstage and all that. And there was this skinny kid sitting in a doorway, in the doorway, playing a guitar, and Jack stepped over him and said, "What's your name, son?" And, Elvis Presley, sir. And they hit it off. In fact, they became pretty good friends. The picture of Elvis that you have seen of Elvis holding a big microphone and got his swivel hips going and on a stage, it's a black and white picture. That was photographed by my boss, Jack Barham. That was his picture. And you can still get more pictures of Elvis on Jack Barham's website. Even though he's passed, his wife still sells them. Anyway, but the tidbit is, break. Elvis, before he got married, he would come. He had a girlfriend there in Shreveport, and Elvis would drive into town and meet up with my boss, Jack Barham, and have supper sometimes, eat out or something like that. And Jack would haul him over to the girlfriend's house and drop him off there and pick him up, a day or two later. And so Elvis had a girlfriend there in Shreveport. So, and Jack and Elvis continued kind of a friendship from afar after Elvis got really big, but Jack had a lot of nice, neat stories about Elvis's girlfriend and another girl, her girlfriend, that kind of thing. So that was a juicy tidbit. And back to, they're both, I wouldn't spill the beans about them, but both parties are now passed on, so I don't mind talking about it. Okay, back to Ned. W5GUS.
All right, thank you, Gus. And yes, it's always interesting how these stories come about. Just an aside, although I have to admit it's a friend of a friend, so it's hearsay on my part. But when I lived in Detroit and I lived downriver, Omar Sharif would come about 3 or 4 times a year, go visit his friend over in Grocio, which is a nice area down. It literally is an island, and with some really beautiful, huge homes. And he would fly in and go there. In fact, there's an airport right on Grocio. And as you may know, he was a champion bridge player. I mean, he was obsessive about it. So he would go visit with his friend and people that he knew, and they'd play bridge for the weekend, and then he'd fly back to wherever the heck he was living at the time, whether it be California or Europe or whatever. This big name star, he would fly into Grocio for one reason only, and that's to play bridge with his friends. So weird, crazy stories like that exist. And then my father worked with a guy who was friends with Vincent Price, and Vincent would do the same thing. He'd fly in, and he said, I got to go pick up Vincent. He's at the airport waiting for me. And he'd bring him in, and he was a family friend, and have him at the house, and then take him back and drop him off at the airport. So, there's big names and can be in small places with ordinary people and stuff like that, so you never know. All right, I think we milked this one. Not too bad. We actually got further in. We got actually a whole hour out of it, hour and 10 minutes. Not too bad. Next week I'm going to give you a little change of pace. Believe it or not, I saw it and I thought, you know what, we haven't done a decent movie. And this one's sort of science fiction because it has an imaginary propulsion system in it that does not exist. But it's a favorite movie. In fact, it was the first one I saw when I first came to Dallas when I moved here in 1989. The Hunt for Red October will be our Christmas movie. So I'm figuring that's popular enough that people, if they're even listening in. Of course, we may be in bed that night. I don't know. We're going to give it a shot. We can see if we're awake. We'll try at 10:30. We'll try The Hunt for Red October for next week. After that, I think we're going to go into the new year with the Riddick series, Pitch Black from 2000, and then Chronicles of Riddick from 2004. They're actually kind of entertaining movies. So, but next week, since it is a holiday, we'll see if we're awake. If we are, we'll discuss Hunt for Red October. So see you all later. Have a good evening. Have a good Christmas. Talk to you on the other side. This is KE5ICX. Unless anybody's got any additional comments, I'm going to close it down. 7-3.
Good movie, Red October. I think we lost Sean Connery this year, so good choice. W5GUS.
Yeah, thanks. I love that movie. I've watched it many, many times, and there's just something about it. The music's great, the acting's good, and it's got Sean Connery. Who else could you want? All right, see you later. KE5ICX, clear.
Elvis has left the planet. This is N5IMS.
All right, good one. W5GU